Hi guys, welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to be changing the CD loading belt on this Sony CMT-CP300 stereo system. This system dates from 2001. It has a 3 CD disc changer, and this particular model suffers a very common problem that after a period of time the loading belt stretches and the CD drawers will no longer open. This unit has just arrived. It has the typical problem. I'll show you what it does. So I don't know if you can hear that noise. It's now trying to eject, but it's unable to. Yeah, totally dead. So if you have one of these units, it's quite likely that you will encounter this problem. This is the 5th one of these that I've actually fixed in the last 6 months. Also just worth mentioning, this is almost identical to the CMT-CP333, which suffers the exact same problem, and the repair procedure is exactly the same. Okay, let's get started. Right, before we get started, always make sure you disconnect the system from the mains. We don't want any nasty shocks. So for this bit, you'll need a crosshead screwdriver. So as you can see, we've got 2 main screws on the sides here. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the back. So let's get started. Okay, once you've done that, it's just a case of lifting off the metal casing and pulling it back. Be very careful because the edges of it's quite sharp. And here we go. Once you've taken the metal casing off, you have 2 little black screws on either side. They need to come out. And then finally, to be able to release the front of the Hifi, there are 2 screws just behind the 2 front feet here. If you remove those, and then we're ready to get inside. Okay, with the screws removed, you've got these little tabs on the side here. Just gently pull them to one side and then the front should come away. Before you can remove the front fully, we need to just release some of these ribbon cables. So as you can see, when you pull the front away, you've got these ribbon cables attached. Very gently, just pull them out in order. Try not to pull too hard so that you don't damage the circuit board. We just need to release this one here. And then hopefully, oh no, just a couple more up here. And then we can pull the whole thing around. Now, what we need to do now is remove this whole CD cassette. And how we need to do that is just loosen up some of these side screws. You don't need to take them out fully. Same on the other side. Just release these two screws down here. Again, no need to take them out. We just need to create enough slack that we can wiggle the CD cartridge out. On the bottom, there are some more screws here holding the cassette in place. Okay, when you've done that, flip it back on its bottom, and then hopefully you should see that the cassette will now start to pull forwards. Can be a little bit awkward. A little bit of trial and error. Oh, before I forget, just release this cable that's running under the bottom here. Just release this just up here. Just pop that out there. And then this ribbon cable here. Very gently wiggle that free. You'll need to just feed this cable underneath this bracket here as you pull the CD cartridge forward. Right. Okay, so now we have the complete CD cartridge out of the main system. As you can see, it's quite dusty. You may want to do whatever you need to do to clean that up. So this is the rear of the CD cassette. As you tip it forward, you can see two little screws down here. Just take those screws out and then you'll be able to see access to the drive belt. and then just lift the back off and pull it down. And there you can see the old drive belt, and you can see just how loose and flexible it is. So as you can see, the old belt has lost its elasticity. When you pull it like that, it should spring back very quickly, but it's not. So the reason why the CD drawers are not able to open is because this is slipping. So when these wheels turn, this drive belt is no longer able to grip the wheels because it's become so slack. So what we're going to do, we're going to pop that off and put this new one on. Okay, so here is the new belt. This is one that I have purchased from eBay. I'll put a link in the description to the seller that I have got this from, because I've used him for the last 5 of these units that I've repaired and I've not had any problems. It is specifically for this model. So what I'm going to do is literally just unpeel the old belt, and then I'm just going to take the new belt out. So here's the new belt and the old belt side by side. This is the old one. See how stretchy it is and how it doesn't ping back very quickly. Here's the new belt, which is very nice and springy and pops back straight away. So that is literally all our problem. Okay, let's see if I can pop this on in one swift motion. There we go. Much springier than the old one. So refitting everything onto the CD cassette is just exactly the same in reverse. It's worth pointing out that on the side of the unit you have these cogs. If the unit for whatever reason has gone out of time, these holes here, here and here will not line up. You should be able to see through that hole and that hole, and these 2 holes here should be facing upwards, and the cog, the grey cog, is along this little white bit here. If any of this is not lined up, and the same on the other side, you should be able to see through there, and up here the same. If that doesn't look like that, then you'll need to retime the unit. Okay, so everything is now reassembled onto the CD cassette mechanism. I've given the inside of the unit a quick dust. You may wish to do the same. Don't obviously wet it or anything, just do what you can to get out the excess dust, because on this particular unit there's quite a few dust bunnies rolling around in there. Once you're happy, it's just a case of getting the CD cassette back in. So first thing to do is make sure you get the grey ribbon cable and just pass it through the underside of this bracket and just pull that through. And then it's just a case of flexing the unit very gently. Be very careful with the ribbon cables. Back into position. Okay, so the grey cable just goes back into this little slot there, and then plugs straight back in there. The ribbon cable, don't know if you can see that, just slots back into that plug there. Obviously be very careful when you're pressing the circuit board. Support it with the back of your hand just so that you don't push it too far backwards. On the bottom of the unit, just make sure that these little plastic lugs here, and here come through these holes, and then you know that the CD is in the right position. It's then just a case of popping the screws back in. Right, CD is back in position. Flick the unit back up the right way. You now just need to retighten these screws on the side. And now we're ready to put the face back on. Right, so when you're ready, grab the face plate. Again, be very careful with the ribbon cables. Make sure that when you're pressing it back into position, you're holding the ribbon cables up so they don't get caught at the bottom here. So on these two side bits, make sure that this little bit here clips into place with this hole here. You should hear it click quite nicely. Make sure it does that on both sides. See, you have to be very careful. I've trapped a piece of wire there, so I need to just take that back. Make sure that is held up, and then try again. So it should click into place. Yeah, which it has. Okay. So this bit here just loops into this hook at the top. And I don't know if you can see that. It then just goes into this plug just down here. I'll just take you in a bit closer so you can see that. So hook it over the top here, then it just plugs down into that little plug down there. And then for the rest, it's just a reversal of how you remove them in the first place. They're all different sizes, so it's quite easy to know which one goes where. So this one goes here. Again, hold the back of the circuit board to support it when you're pressing the ribbon cables back home, because you don't want to break the circuit board. It's just a case of trial and error to find out which one goes into which plug. And then just put these two back, the two that I forgot to disconnect the first time. And then this one here. And then everything electrical has been put back together. Just one thing I forgot to mention earlier, when the CD drawer is back in, don't forget to just screw down these 2 screws down here that we loosened earlier. Right, let's test this then. Something I noticed just before I put the top back on is that I didn't connect this one here. So obviously don't forget to connect that one. Okay, so before we put all the case back together, let's give this thing a quick test. So I've just plugged it back into the mains. I'm going to switch it on and hope for the best. Okay, that sounds good. The CD changer is now trying to search for a CD. Okay, it's saying no disc, so let's try number 1 and fingers crossed. Yes. Let's try number 2. Yes, so number 2 and number 1 are working. These units are quite noisy, as you can hear. It's perfectly normal. In fact, if it's not making this noise, then there's something wrong with it. Brilliant. So I'm just going to pop some CDs in. Right, let's see if it will read a disc. Now I haven't got any speakers connected up, but it should tell you whether or not the CD is playing. Well, it's recognised it, so let's see. As you can see, the CD is reading. So it looks like we are in business. Let's try disc 2. Picked up the CD text and it's now playing the track. So last but not least, CD 3. Brilliant, all 3 CDs work. Right, let's get the case back together. Right, first of all, get the little black screws that go into the side here and screw those home. Two little silver screws that go just behind the front feet. And then we're ready for our case. Make sure when you're fitting the metal case that these little metal lugs fit into the little plastic cutout. Don't let it go on the outside, otherwise you may scratch the face. So when refitting the screws, make sure that the 4 side screws are the ones with the biggest face. The rear screws have a smaller face. And then onto the rear. And there we have it, one repaired Sony CMT-CP300. These little units are extremely good quality, they're very heavy, and for the sake of a small drive belt, I think many of these have probably been discarded over the years. But as you can see, it's relatively easy to change, and there's absolutely no reason why you can't spend a few pounds on a new belt and to have a go yourself and have this thing last for another 10-20 years. Thanks for watching. Join me next time when I'll be changing some of the belts on the cassette deck on this unit. Thanks for watching.